Good morning, everyone. Steve here from theturtlefollower.com with your stock market outlook video for Saturday, October 3rd, 2015. So we had a bit of a fireworks show at the end of the week. It looks like maybe we're putting in this double bottom that we've been looking for in the futures. You can see here on the S&P, we're still consolidating within this within this triangle that we've been discussing, and we discussed on Thursday or Wednesday night. All right, so we were anticipating finding some support here. All right, now we're looking at maybe moving a little bit higher, maybe to the 1970s or so, and then probably finding some resistance. So I'm not convinced yet that this is necessarily the low. All right, I still think that we eventually consolidate in here maybe for another week or so. But as I said Wednesday night, this was a good opportunity to take a nice little swing trade, and this move here that we had on Friday really constitutes a lot of short covering. All right, so basically what happened here, at least in my opinion, is we started to break down below these lows. All right, so as you would see any other swing move, just as we had here on the 29th, we started moving up. Finally, market, after the bad payroll number came out, market moved back below the low from Thursday, and then that would be the area that you would think sellers would want to step in and take this lower, and that's what I thought was going to happen. I honestly thought that Friday we were going to see this 1830 number, or at least the lows right around 1862. Sure enough, that did not happen, and no new sellers were there. All right, so what happens then the rest of the day is everybody that's caught short is now trying to get out of their position, and that's what drives the market higher and higher. And especially when we take out this high here, and you'll see that in a minute when I'm going to show you the SPY on the intraday chart, you'll see that once we break over 1930, we just pretty much skyrocket to new highs and close it right at the highs. And like I said, if you take a look at on the intraday chart now, here this is the daily chart top left, hourly chart top right, and then a 30-minute chart on the larger chart. So you can see if we zoom in, all right, here are those levels. Now this is the SPY, so just add a 0 basically to or move the decimal point over, and that gives you approximately where it is on the SPX. But you can see here, that once we started breaking down below the lows, all right, no new sellers were found. All right, like I said, here was the low from Thursday, was this right here. All right, that's the low from Thursday. We started breaking down below those lows, and look at what you got. Instead of getting some continuation, you got a Doji Bar. All right, so basically a neutral bar that signals that there's some indecision here. Then you start to get a little bit of reversal. You get a higher low on the bar and a higher high. And then sure enough, once you break out of this 3-bar move, all right, break out to the upside, that's really what triggers it. So we came right to 1930, saw some resistance, saw some consolidation right at that level. All right, and then as I said, once we broke above that, all the remaining people, that were short probably had their stop there thinking we were going to roll back over. And sure enough, short covering right into the close. All right, so even if you look at it on the ES, you'll see the same thing. All right, again, had to move down below Thursday's low. Once we came up to Thursday's high, all right, which was a 2-day high, and finally broke through and short covered right into the close. So going back to the daily charts, our normal charts, you'll see that, as I said, we've talked about now, which hopefully you guys were able to catch these. We talked about the potential for a short trade coming down through here, and we also talked about the potential for a long trade. So now I would say you want to look at like 1960, 1967 as a place to potentially take this long trade off, and I think that is where the resistance ultimately comes in. All right, and then maybe we pull back, and then maybe we break out, or maybe we just consolidate and then we break out. But as I said, I'm not convinced necessarily that these two are the lows, but Friday's action definitely tells me that I think we have at least some more upside to go in the market. Now if you look at the NQs, similar situation. Okay, here we have this trend line right through here. All right, so ultimately you could see we could potentially head up to like the 43.50 area on the NQs, but exactly the same situation. We had a move, a nice swing low here. All right, you could have bought it on a close above the high, and then boom, boom. Now you're all of a sudden, trading 42.60 where you got in somewhere around 41.50 to pick up 110 points. A nice little move there if you could withstand the volatility, obviously. But now, again, we tried to close below or move below this low on Thursday. It didn't happen, and sure enough, we closed them at the highs. So I would expect, at least for the rest of next week, I would expect to fill in the rest of this area here. All right, let's see if I could use the right tool for this. I would expect to fill this area in between the trend line and where we closed. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to go straight up. I don't know if it necessarily goes straight up. We may see a bit of a pause here and then a move higher, but I do think that by the end of the week, we're probably closer to this trend line than this trend line. All right, so if that helps you at all. Similar Dow, all right, similar situation. You can see we've just been consolidating here almost perfectly within this larger rectangle. All right, and again, we don't have much room to the downtrend line in the Dow, just a small little bit there, but I think that one gets hit, and then that's probably where you see some resistance from the market. But ultimately, I mean, long-term trends are broken. All right, so long-term trends are broken. We have a significant amount of resistance overhead. If we look at the weekly chart here, if we pull this down a little bit, if you look at the weekly chart, all right, we've broken this downtrend line. Everybody up here is a loser, and at some point they probably sold their positions into this puke fest, but others are still holding positions, and they're waiting for us to come back up, closer to the 17,000 and the Dow and whatever the other levels are, before they let their longs go. Because look at what's happening here. This is the 200-day moving average, I believe. Yeah, so it's the 40-week, it's the 200-day moving average, and sure enough, it's starting to roll over. So just as it acted as support on the way up, it can act as resistance on the way down. All right, so what may happen here is we may just consolidate in this larger range, allow this 40-week to come down, and then eventually break down again. I don't know, but all I know is for next week, or I don't even know this, but for next week, I would say the probability of us heading higher is greater than the probability of us heading lower. So that's how I'm playing next week. I'm closing some of my short positions. We're going to go over that with some members tonight, but I'm closing some short positions and looking to initiate a few more longs in the portfolio. And the last one, that we're going to look at of the majors is the TF, the Russell, and you can see this is almost a perfect double bottom here. All right, you have this right here, this right here. So if you didn't get a chance to get long the other indices, you could definitely look to get long the Russell, but as I said, you're probably only looking to get it to the trend line. So you're probably risking one to make one, not the best risk-reward ratio. So at this point, I'd say you probably missed that swing trade that we talked about. So that's just another way to trade, especially with the indexes. I don't do it that much, but I do like to call them out when I see them. So especially like, as I said, you can look at the SPY. I'll go through these real quick. I actually had a trade on the SPY on Friday that I closed out of. But here, you can see the SPY double bottomed almost perfectly. Looking for a reversal. Sure enough, you get it. And now looking to go a little bit higher. The diamonds, DIA, all right, these are all potential vehicles to use that little swing trading method I just showed you. And it's not perfect, but it's just another way to maybe a 3 or 4 day trade to generate some income as opposed to trend following. Because right now we have some trend following stocks in the portfolio, but a lot of stuff is choppy. So any other way to make a little bit of income on a couple day trade, I'm all for it. The Qs, QQQ for the NASDAQ, you can see the same trade there, had a nice little pop, and you can see that these do have a little bit more room to the upside, similar to the index. All right, but as I said, at this point, you're probably a little late in that trade. You wanted to get in maybe around 101.75 or so, risk to about 98.50. So just make the math easy. Risk about $3 on the trade, and you're already up about $3. So, and with the potential for another maybe $3. All right, so you always want to kind of risk one to make two type of deal with swing trading. And last but not least, the IWM. All right, you can see IWM even initially, you know, the Russell showed a double bottom. This initially broke down below, but here you go, IWM, big move higher. If this is going to continue, this is maybe a little bit of a laggard trade. If that's what you want to take, you could put a stop right down here, purchase it at 110.63, and look to take it off right around 115. So risk about 3 to make about 5. That's a potential trade you can make as well. So that's it for this week. As I said, I think we're heading for at least a couple more days of some strength. After that, who knows? I think we test those trend lines. But you know, again, the better trade, if you're going to swing trade these, is more to wait till those trend lines come into play. If we start to fail, take the short position, because then you're going with the trend on all these stocks. So these are a bit of a counter trend type of move, a little bit harder to pull off, but you know, not to say it doesn't work. So that's it for today. Again, I think this week coming is probably a little bit of a more bullish appearance than we originally thought, thanks to Friday's action. Wouldn't be surprised if a little bit of Friday's action gets retraced, but ultimately I do think that we head to those downtrend lines in all the indices. So that's it. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll catch you on sometime during the week. Take care.